What would you do if you heard scratching under your bed every night? Welcome to the eerie and mysterious world of the Appalachian Mountains, a place where the whispers of the past meet the screams of the present. Tonight, we delve into 8 true encounters that will chill your bones and question your safety in the solitude of nature. Our first story takes us to a secluded cabin where a writer, seeking the solace of isolation to ignite her creativity, finds instead a haunting melody that seeps through the walls each night. The slow-burn psychological tension builds as she discovers that the melody correlates with the disappearance of locals decades ago. But here's where it gets interesting. Transitioning into the vast moonlit landscapes of the mountains, our second tale speeds up with a hiker's breathless escape from an unseen pursuer. The crunch of dry leaves and sharp sudden jump scares keep you on the edge as he stumbles upon an ancient burial ground, awakening a force that should have remained buried. The third story's atmospheric dread unfolds in a fog-covered train crossing the mountains. A young woman's journey turns to terror as passengers around her begin to vanish after each tunnel they pass through. The eerie silence of the carriages and her mounting dread play on our deepest fears of being trapped and helpless. Each story, unique in its setting and mode of horror, weaves a rich tapestry of fear and intrigue. As we peel back the layers of these chilling tales, we find that sometimes the most horrifying monsters are the ones hidden in plain sight, in the silence of the mountain air, in the depths of our own minds. What happened next shocked everyone. These stories share more than just a setting. They explore the human psyche's fragility when confronted with the unknown. As we conclude tonight's journey, remember, the Appalachian Mountains hold many secrets, some of which are better left undiscovered. But the question remains, are these merely stories, or are they warnings? Stay tuned and keep the lights on. The horror isn't quite over yet. Imagine you're walking through a dense fog, the path barely visible under your feet, and suddenly, whispers tickle at the edge of your hearing. What would you do if those whispers called out your name? Welcome to the whispering woods of Appalachia, where the trees know more than they should. Our story begins with Emily, a seasoned hiker with a love for Appalachian trails. This trip was supposed to be a routine escape into the wilderness, a chance to disconnect. But as she ventured deeper into the woods, the air grew unnaturally still. The only sound was her footsteps and faintly whispers. "Emily." The voice seemed to echo from between the trees, yet there was no one else around. At first, she wrote it off as the wind, or perhaps her own mind playing tricks after hours of solitude. The day faded, and with the setting sun, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. She set up KMP by a small clearing, the whispers now clear enough to make out words. "Leave. Go back," they said. Emily tried to sleep, but the voices penetrated the thin fabric of her tent. In the middle of the night, she decided to confront whatever was haunting her. Stepping out into the moonlit woods, the voices stopped. The silence was oppressive, almost tangible. As her eyes adjusted, she noticed shadows within the trees, moving, shifting in unnatural ways. Her heart pounded as the reality of her isolation sank in. She was alone, yet clearly something was with her. Emily's decision to face her fear was met with an eerie calm. Then the whispers returned, louder than ever, accompanied by a cold wind that seemed to pass right through her. "Leave now or stay forever," the voice hissed, a warning or a threat. She turned to run, the whispers chasing her, the shadows creeping closer. As she broke through the tree line and back to her car, the whispers faded, but the fear they instilled lingered. Emily never returned to the Whispering Woods, and she often wonders what would have happened if she had stayed. But here's where it gets interesting. Emily's story isn't unique. Many who wander into those woods hear the whispers. Some heed the warning, others disappear, swallowed by the fog and the shadows. What lurks in the Whispering Woods remains a mystery, one that warns us about the dangers of ignoring the unseen forces of nature. What happened next shocked everyone, but that's a tale for another time. For now, remember, the woods are never as empty as they seem, and some paths are best left untraveled. What would you do if every step you took in the wilderness echoed back at you, not as your own, but as whispers of a stranger behind you? Welcome back to our chilling journey. This next story will make you reconsider every hike on lonely trails. The story of the vanishing hiker begins now. Timothy Blake, an avid hiker with an adventurous spirit, set out to conquer the serpentine trails of the Appalachian Mountains alone. His goal was the famed Bloodroot Path, known not just for its breathtaking views, but eerie solitude. The crisp autumn air was a blend of decaying leaves and the sharp tang of pine, invigorating, yet subtly menacing. Timothy documented his journey via a small camera, the footage showcasing vast expanses of an almost supernatural beauty. But as dusk crept upon him, the camera captured more than just scenery. "Did you see that?" Timothy muttered to himself, rewinding the footage. The shadows between the trees seemed to move unnaturally, almost pulsating. With nightfall, the real terror began. Rustles not far off the trail suggested a presence, which Timothy first dismissed as wildlife. But the repetitive, deliberate crackling of twigs painted a picture of something or someone stalking him. His breaths became visible in the cold night air, each exhale a misty swirl, reflecting his rising panic. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice quivering. No answer, just the echo of his own voice against the stark moonlit woods. Deciding to set up camp, hoping for safety in the light of his fire, Timothy tried to rest. But sleep eluded him as the subtle sounds of creeping footsteps circled his tent. Morning light revealed a more harrowing scene. His backpack, previously secured, was now open, contents strewn about. The camera, still running, showed footage from the night. A blurred figure occasionally passing in front of the lens, too close for comfort. Timothy decided to turn back, his sense of adventure overwhelmed by a primal fear of being watched, pursued. But he never returned. Search teams found the campsite intact, his camera the only witness to his last fear-stricken hours. The footage from his intended return journey played like a horror film. Quick, shaky glimpses of someone or something, always just behind him, never fully visible, until the final frame froze on a faceless shadow overtaking him. What became of Timothy Blake remains a mystery to this day. Was he the victim of a mountain legend said to guard the solitude of the wilderness? Or was it his own isolation that led to his undoing? As the screen fades to black, let's ponder this. How much do we really know about the places we consider serene escapes? But don't go far. Our next story explores even darker corners of the human psyche. Imagine driving alone at night when your headlights catch a pair of glowing eyes in the rearview mirror. Alone on a seldom-traveled bridge, the eyes seem to follow you, unblinking. What would you do if, no matter how fast you drove, those haunting eyes remained, always at the same distance? Welcome to the unsettling tale of the eyes in the darkness. Eliza, a pediatric nurse returning from a late shift, always took the old Miller's Bridge, convincing herself it cut her travel time. Tonight, the fog was thick, curling around her car like cold fingers, making the bridge's entrance barely visible. As she approached, a chill ran through her, not from the cold, but a deep crawling dread. The bridge, known for the tragic disappearance of a young couple in the 50s, carried whispers of hauntings. Eliza, a skeptic, dismissed these stories, but tonight the air felt charged, heavy with expectation. As her car crawled across the bridge, Eliza's skin prickled. The radio playing softly crackled and went silent. Peering into the mirror to adjust it, she gasped. Two luminous, unyielding eyes stared back at her from the darkness. She accelerated, heart pounding, but the eyes remained. A metallic taste of fear filled her mouth as she realized the eyes weren't in her car, but were reflecting off something behind her. The bridge's history flashed in her mind. The vanished couple last seen driving this very path. Eliza's breath became shallow, her hands icy on the wheel. The eyes seemed to bore into her, knowing her, exposing her deepest insecurities. She remembered her brother, who vanished, years ago under mysterious circumstances, her guilt for not being there that night gnawing at her. Now faced with these accusing, ghostly eyes, her past fears merged with the present. "Not again," she whispered, a mix of prayer and plea. Reaching the bridge's end, the eyes suddenly vanished. Eliza pulled over, trembling, tears streaming down her face. She looked back, half expecting the eyes to reappear, but there was only the empty fog-shrouded bridge. Was it her imagination, fueled by fatigue and local legends? Or had she experienced a genuine encounter, a spectral warning intertwined with the unresolved grief of her own loss? As the fog slowly lifted, revealing the dawn, Eliza drove off, the weight of the night's terror still clinging to her like the morning mist. But here's where it gets interesting. The eyes, though gone, left a lingering question. Was Eliza simply a witness, or was she somehow a participant in something far darker? Mid-scream, the night pierces as Jason stumbles through the dense underbrush of the Appalachian wilderness, his breath a visible mist in the cold air. What would you do if the woods whispered back to you every time you called out? The narrator interjects smoothly, setting the eerie tone. Jason, a seasoned hiker, had ventured into these mountains seeking solace from city life, only to find himself feeling perpetually followed. No matter how far he trekked, the sensation of eyes watching him from the shadows was relentless. The environment seemed to breathe, thick fogs rolling between trees like silent specters. Jason recalled local legends of the unseen followers, spirits of old settlers who protected the land, supposedly aiding those who respected their domain. But as the days dwindled, so did his peace. One night, crystallized by the chilling atmosphere, Jason woke to the soft rustling outside his tent. His heart pounded as he lay frozen, the crunch of leaves underfoot approaching. He whispered, "Is someone there?" No answer, just the echoes of his own voice against the vast empty woods. The rustling halted, yet the weight of unseen eyes never left. Panic seeped into his veins, a cold dread that made his skin prickle. Jason decided to confront his fear. Armed with just a flashlight, he stepped out. The beam cut through the mist, revealing nothing but the endless dance of tree shadows. Yet, a whisper carried on the wind. "Leave." It was a voice, guttural and almost inhuman, that chilled him to his core. As he spun around, the flashlight flickered, plunging him into darkness. Heart racing, he felt a breath on his neck, smelling of earth and decay. "Who are you?" he demanded, swinging the dim light around frantically. But the response was a gust of wind, brushing across his face like a caress from the grave. Jason ran, the sound of his footsteps echoed by another set keeping pace. Just as he thought he was surely lost, he emerged into a clearing. The full moon cast a spectral glow, and for a moment he saw them. Figures, shadows within shadows, circling the trees. They whispered amongst themselves, ignoring his presence now that he observed them. Jason understood. These spirits weren't following him but protecting their sacred ground. As dawn broke, the figures faded like mist, leaving Jason alone, but with a new respect for these mountains. But here's where it gets interesting. The narrator draws you back. What if Jason's experience wasn't just a brush with the supernatural, but a warning? As the screen fades, the chilling thought lingers. The mountain holds many secrets, and some are keen on keeping them. What happens next might just reveal the darker side of the Appalachian mysteries. What would you do if, during a hike, you stumbled upon a town that wasn't supposed to exist? The Lost Town begins with Tom, an avid hiker, who, while exploring the Appalachian Trail, veers off his planned route due to a misleading map and finds himself in a mysteriously abandoned town, seemingly untouched by time, but covered in a layer of unsettling silence. As Tom walks the desolate streets, the air feels unnaturally still, and the faint smell of rust permeates the atmosphere, metallic and old. He brushes a hand along the moss-covered buildings, the wet, spongy texture sending a shiver down his spine. Every step echoes on the cobblestone, sounding louder than his heartbeat. The eerie quiet is occasionally broken by a distant mechanical ticking, like a great clock hidden beneath the earth. Curiosity drives him to explore further. Inside a dusty general store, Tom finds newspapers dated back to 1953, all reporting the same day's news. The calendar on the wall is stuck on April 28, 1953. A chill runs through him as he realizes the town is frozen in time. Tom hears a sound upstairs, a slow, rhythmic creaking. As he ascends the creaky steps, the air grows colder, and his breath turns to mist. Reaching the top, he finds a room with a rocking chair moving back and forth by itself. As he approaches, the chair stops abruptly. The silence is now suffocating, and Tom feels a sudden, overwhelming sense of being watched. He whirls around but sees no one, only his own distorted reflection in a cracked mirror. Then, the mirror's reflection shows something horrifying. A figure standing right behind him. Turning back in panic, nothing is there. Rushing out of the house, he notices for the first time that despite the clear sky, no birds are singing, no insects are buzzing, and even the wind seems to hold its breath. As the sun sets, shadows stretch unnaturally long, and whispers seem to emanate from the empty houses, calling his name. But here's where it gets interesting. As darkness envelops the town, the mechanical ticking grows louder, and Tom follows it to the town's outskirts, where he discovers a large hidden clockwork mechanism underground. It's connected to every building, every street. With the sinking feeling, he realizes that the town isn't just abandoned, it's a gear and clockwork model, and by entering it, he has become part of its mechanism. The truth, however, was far darker. Trying to leave, Tom finds that the paths leading out of town have inexplicably changed, looping back on themselves. He's trapped in an endless cycle, a prisoner of the lost town, now a mere cog in its timeless machine. What would you do if deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, you encountered a woman whose gaze seemed to pierce right through the veil of death itself? Welcome to the chilling tale of the Appalachian Witch. But here's where it gets interesting. Eli, a seasoned hiker, had heard local legends of an old witch dwelling in the mountains. Curiosity mixed with his adventurous spirit drove him to seek her out. The trail was cloaked in a dense mist, the air filled with the tang of wet earth and decayed leaves, setting a perfect stage for what was to come. As he wandered deeper into the woods, the faint sound of a melody, a haunting, lilting tune, caressed his ears, drawing him irresistibly forward. "Is anybody there?" Eli called out, his voice quivering slightly as the melody grew louder, weaving through the trees like a tangible thread, pulling him to its source. He stumbled upon a small, decrepit cabin, its windows like blind eyes staring into the soul. The door creaked open as if beckoned by his very presence. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of herbs and something unsettlingly metallic. Eli's eyes adjusted to the dim light, and there she was, the Appalachian Witch, or so the tales would call her. A frail figure, her skin as pale as moth wings, her eyes shimmering with an unnatural light. "Why do you seek me?" Her voice was a whisper, yet it filled the space with a chilling clarity. I heard stories. I wanted to see if they were true," Eli managed to say, his heart pounding not just with fear, but a morbid fascination. The witch smiled, revealing teeth that were surprisingly sharp and white. "Ah, tales. They do keep me alive in a way," she murmured, moving closer to him. Her touch was cold, sending a shiver down Eli's spine. But every tale has its price. The air thickened, the earlier melody turning into a low hum under her breath. Eli's head spun as the witch's true nature revealed itself. Her form blurred, her face elongating, eyes deepening into voids that threatened to swallow him whole. The room spun, and he realized too late that the witch was not just a tale, but a guardian of ancient dark secrets of the mountains. Eli's scream was lost in the wind as the witch transformed fully, her once human features now a grotesque mask of folklore terror. The truth, however, was far darker than Eli could have imagined. He wasn't just a visitor. He was a tribute, another soul to be woven into the fabric of her immortality. As the cabin faded into the mist, so did Eli's hopes. Somewhere in the distance, the melody resumed as haunting as ever, a lure for the next unwary traveler. The Appalachian wheat that each waits, and the mountains hold tight their secrets, ready for the next tale to begin. What would you do if you unearthed an artifact that whispered your darkest fears back to you? Welcome to the cursed discovery of Edward Rowe, a seasoned hiker who found more than he bargained for beneath the roots of an ancient oak in the Appalachians. Edward, driven by tales of hidden treasures scattered in these mountains, stumbled upon a small, grotesque statue. Its eyes, if they could be called that, were hollow, yet seemed to pulsate with a silent malevolence. As he pocketed the eerie find, the wind seemed to carry a faint whisper, "Return me." Ignoring this, he returned to his camp. That night, as the fire crackled, Edward felt the chill of being watched. The forest seemed denser, shadows within dancing menacingly. His dreams were invaded by visions of shadowy figures circling his tent, their whispers clawing at his sanity. "Return me," they echoed, now a chorus that wouldn't be silenced. Morning brought no relief. Edward's eyes, bloodshot from a sleepless night, caught a glimpse of the statue on his bedside. It was covered in a viscous, dark fluid that wasn't there before. Recoiling in horror, he decided it had to go back. But here's where it gets interesting. As he retraced his steps to the ancient oak, the forest seemed unfamiliar, distorted, paths twisted in impossible ways, and a thick fog obscured his vision. After hours that seemed like days, Edward finally reached the gnarled tree. Placing the statue back, he felt an immediate wave of relief wash over him, or so he thought. As he turned to leave, a cold hand gripped his shoulder, spinning him around to face his own eyes, hollowed and dark, staring back at him from the statue. The truth, however, was far darker. Edward never left the forest. Hikers report seeing a man, eyes hollow as the depths of night, whispering to an unseen force, forever searching for something just out of reach. The cursed artifact, they say, binds its finder to the forest, feeding on their fears, driving them mad with isolation until they become part of the very shadows they fear. So next time you feel the urge to uncover the secrets buried in these mountains, remember Edward Rowe, forever lost to his own unquenchable curiosity and the cursed whispers of the Appalachians. The wind howled like a chorus of wailing spirits as Michael trekked up the howling mountain. Known for its eerie nocturnal cries, the mountain had terrified locals for generations. Michael, a seasoned hiker, dismissed these as mere wind funneling through the caverns. Until tonight. What would you do if the very air around you echoed with the whispers of the past? He pondered aloud, his voice barely audible over the relentless gusts. As night fell, the sounds intensified. Whispers morphed into guttural moans. With each step, the atmosphere thickened, tangibly pressing against his skin like damp, cold cloth. The full moon, a ghostly spectator, cast long, sinister shadows that seemed to flicker with malicious intent. Michael's heart raced as his flashlight beam danced over ancient trees, their gnarled limbs reaching out like the fingers of a drowned corpse. The scent of decay, potent and suffocating, filled the air, making each breath a gruesome effort. But here's where it gets interesting. The narrator interjects. Michael wasn't alone. Through the thicket, a figure shrouded in a tattered cloak appeared, its face obscured by the hood, its presence silent but overwhelmingly oppressive. Michael stopped, his instinct screaming to flee, but curiosity rooted him to the spot. As he watched, the figure slowly lifted its head, revealing not a face, but an abyss. A void so deep and dark it seemed to devour the weak moonlight. The figure pointed towards the peak, and without knowing why, Michael followed, drawn by a force beyond his understanding. The path became rougher, the eerie cries louder, echoing through the pines, now resembling the screams of 1,000 lost souls. Heart-pounding, he reached the summit. The figure vanished as if it had never been, leaving Michael in bewildering solitude. What happened next shocked everyone, whispers the narrator. At the peak, the ground was littered with black feathers, forming a circle around a single ancient oak tree. As Michael approached, the howls ceased abruptly, replaced by a suffocating silence. Touching the tree, he felt a pulse, slow and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The tree's bark suddenly felt warm, flesh-like. Horrified, Michael realized the mountain wasn't haunted by spirits, but was itself a sentient living entity, mourning its solitude through nightly cries of despair. Fleeing the summit, the whispers returned, now soothing, almost inviting. By dawn, Michael was no longer seen. The mountain fell silent. The locals say it finally found companionship. Michael's disappearance remains a mystery, his last echo a chilling testament to the mountain's lingering sorrow. The truth, however, was far darker. The narrator concludes, leaving a lingering sense of unresolved dread as the screen fades to black, the howls of the mountain resuming in the background. As we draw the curtains on these chilling tales from the Appalachian Mountains, let's take a moment to reflect on the eerie shadows and whispers that have accompanied us through this journey. These stories, rooted in the deepest fears of isolation and entrapment, have not just been tales of horror, but also of profound human emotion and vulnerability. We began with the Whispering Woods, where the fog seemed almost alive, wrapping its cold fingers around your spine as you walked through it. Here, the sound of your own breath became a harbinger of dread, setting an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Then there was the harrowing experience of the vanishing hiker. Each step resonated not just on the ground, but in the mind of our protagonist, echoing back not with the sound of twigs breaking underfoot, but with the haunting realization of being followed. In this story, sight became the primary sense assaulted, as every shadow and movement in the peripheral vision turned suspect. The eyes in the darkness pushed the limits of psychological horror, with the terror of being watched from unseen eyes. Every glance in the rearview mirror doubled as a glimpse into a nightmarish void where the line between reality and hallucination blurred. The touch of fear was palpable here. Every texture felt under the fingers seemed imbued with menace. As we ventured further, the unseen follower and the mysteries of the lost town unfolded, each story weaving its unique pattern of fear and suspense, ensuring no two horrors felt the same. The Appalachian Witch and the Cursed Artifact brought us face to face with the supernatural and the power of cursed whispers that played tricks not just with the mind but touched the very soul. Finally, the Howling Mountain, with its chorus of eerie winds and the silent screams that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself, wrapped up our journey. Here, the rapid-fire intensity of our narrative reached its climax, with environmental threats becoming almost a character in their own right. The cold wasn't just felt on the skin, but bored deep into the bones, leaving a metallic taste of fear in the mouth. But what makes these stories linger in the mind long after the last tale has been told? It is the way they tap into our primal fears, not just of the supernatural, but of our own minds, our memories, and our very humanity. The horror, as we've seen, isn't just in the shadows or the unknown, but in the everyday moments turned sinister by our own fears. So, as we end tonight's foray into the Appalachian mysteries, I leave you with a question and an invitation. What are your own stories of unexplained mysteries and whispered fears? Share them in the comments below, and let's keep the spirit of these tales alive until our next unsettling journey together.